I'm not saying that Gibraltar is mistaken. Obviously, Gibraltar has its own concerns. But from the wider perspective of the United Kingdom, in much of the same way that Gibraltar is adamant that it does not want to share its sovereignty with Spain, doesn't want to have shared sovereignty with Spain, in a similar way, many people in the United Kingdom do not want shared sovereignty with the other EU 28 EU 27 states, because effectively that's what pooled sovereignty means. We're told that our loss of sovereignty is because we've pooled it with the other EU countries, but in effect that actually means share sovereignty between us and the other EU 27, and that's why we've lost the ability to make laws for ourselves, and we want to have the power of self-determination. Gibraltar wants to be able to be a self-determining country, and we want the same. We want to be an independent, free, self-governing country.
You mentioned shared sovereignty, and of course one of the fears in Gibraltar is that if the UK leaves the European Union, Spain has already threatened, in fact, that it would want to renew the joint sovereignty proposals of some years ago. So that is one of the arguments used by the Remain campaign, as you know.
That is what they say, but I would say that we don't know what's going to happen with the EU in the future. You know, when Britain voted to stay in the common market in 1975, there were only 8 other countries in the EEC, and Mr Wilson negotiated this new deal for Britain that said we would have a veto on every single law or tax that was bad for the United Kingdom. But now that's not so, especially with the Lisbon Treaty. More and more laws are decided by QMV. The UK doesn't have the veto in very many areas, and as other countries join, we already have 6 countries with candidate status. We have Albania, Bosnia, Macedonia, Montenegro, Serbia and Turkey. And in 2009, the EU signed the Eastern Partnership agreements with Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Moldova, Georgia and Ukraine. So as more and more countries join in the future, we don't know how many more laws will have to be decided by QMV, and at such time we don't know if Britain will be able to say, I mean, nobody knows in the future what's going to happen.
But if Britain stays in, it would of course have the power to veto the entry of these countries, wouldn't it?
Yes, but we've already lots of things go through in the European Parliament. Cameron did say that he would stop any more progression of Turkey the other day, but we hear in the paper that they've agreed to Turkey's membership being accelerated, and the people of Ukraine had a referendum the other day saying that they didn't want the Ukraine, this is Holland, had a referendum to say they didn't want the Ukraine to actually have visa-free travel. But much of this had already been decided in the EU.
Tell me one thing, in your heart of hearts, aren't you just a teeny-weeny bit scared that if the UK leaves the EU, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen?
There's been lots of scare stories, as you know, and there was a report from the Cass Institute said that they actually, it's their quotation, that the Treasury was some sort of propaganda machine, and that the UK Treasury have deliberately disregarded other research that says that in actual fact there won't be any big hiccup in the economy. And I would like to think that Gibraltar has been British for over 300 years now, as of the Falkland Islands and all the other British protectorates. And I would like to think that Britain would still obviously support Gibraltar, and personally I'd like to see far more military here. I cannot understand it. You know, we used to have planes based here all the time. We used to have a battalion. I mean, when my father and my uncles were in the Royal Navy, they've all got pictures taken from at the top of the rock. And, you know, the Bay of Gibraltar is absolutely full of ships, and I'd hope we could go back to that again. And it's, as you know, in the same way that the EU needs Britain, because they sell far more to us than we do to them, the southern Spain across the border needs Gibraltar. You know, Spain is in a dire strait at the moment, and if it wasn't for Gibraltar, lots of people just across the border would be suffering. So I'm sure that reason will prevail, and I hope things carry on. I shall pray that things carry on in Gibraltar, because I love Gibraltar and I love the Gibraltar people.